Okay, I want you to think about this for a second. The last time you spent, I don't know, 20 minutes just clicking through endless network folders, or maybe scrolling through some ancient SharePoint site, desperately trying to find that one file.
Yeah, the one that explains how something really important actually works. We've all been there.
Exactly. Or maybe you just needed the name, just the name of the person who actually built the thing in the first place.
Yeah.
That feeling, that information friction. Well, that colossal waste of time, that's the organizational pain point we're diving into today.
It's incredibly common.
So our mission here is to take a deep dive into the core of knowledge management, or KLM, as it's usually called. We're going to try and extract the nuts and bolts of what KLM actually is, why organizations are putting serious money into it now, treating it like a strategic imperative.
And crucially, how you can implement it successfully without just getting completely lost in all the technology options out there.
Right. Think of this as your shortcut, your guide to understanding how companies try to organize their collective brainpower. Okay, so let's unpack this. Let's start with a basic definition.
Sure.
At its simplest, you could say knowledge management is a structured process, right?
Mhm.
It's designed to help information and expertise flow to the right people, but also at the right time.
That right time part is key.
It is.
Mhm.
And the goal seems pretty straightforward. Helping employees efficiently find, understand, share, and then actually use knowledge to create real business value.
Yeah, and if we were trying to, nail the perfect elevator pitch for KLM, it's really the whole process: identifying, organizing, storing, and then strategically getting information out there, disseminating it within the organization.
Okay.
And when this is done well, when that knowledge is actually easy to find and intuitive to access, it directly taps into the collective intelligence of everyone.
Which translates into,
Well, better operational efficiencies, for one, and significantly faster, more informed decision-making right across the business. That knowledge friction we talked about, it's not just annoying. It costs real money, delays pretty much every project.
okay, so that's the what. Now, here's where I find it gets really interesting. The business case. We know it solves friction, sure, but what really pushes a company to launch a full-scale, probably expensive KOM program?
Right.
Because it's rarely just about tidying up old files, is it?
Yeah.
It often seems rooted in some kind of massive change, maybe even a crisis.
Absolutely. You've hit on some key drivers there. One of the most common ones is definitely the brain drain scenario. You see senior experts, people who hold decades of really deep operational knowledge,
Uh-huh.
and they're approaching retirement. Suddenly, the organization has this oh no moment. They realize they need a repeatable, sustainable way to capture and document all that critical know-how, that experience, before it literally walks out the door.
Right, it becomes a business continuity issue.
Exactly. It's about survival sometimes.
Yeah. Or you see the flip side, right? The growth scenario. Maybe there's a huge influx of new hires joining the company.
Yeah, rapid expansion.
And KMM is seen as, well, the main way to really streamline onboarding. So instead of spending like 6 months just trying to figure things out,
Dragging your feet, yeah.
new employees can access structured, hopefully accurate, institutional knowledge right from day one. Gets them productive faster.
And another big trigger we see is KM programs launching in response to really dramatic organizational changes. Think mergers, acquisitions, maybe a big restructuring.
Okay, yeah, those are disruptive.
Hugely. These events immediately create information silos, tons of confusion, and KOM becomes necessary to actively break down those traditional business boundaries, encourage effective collaboration between teams that maybe didn't even know each other existed last month.
Makes sense. Okay, before we dive deeper into strategy and tools, we probably need to understand the actual stuff we're managing here, the knowledge itself. We need that aha moment by the different types.
That's a great point. When we talk about knowledge, we really have to distinguish between three fundamental types. And they're often categorized simply by how easy they are to write down, to codify.
Okay, type 1.
First up, you have tacit knowledge. Now, this is the deep stuff. It's acquired through years of experience. It's often intuitive, and it's incredibly challenging to articulate, let alone write down in a manual.
Like you just know how to do it.
Exactly. Think about the skill of a master negotiator, maybe, or a CEO's particular leadership style, or even something really basic like your ability to recognize a face in a crowd. You can't write a step-by-step guide on how to recognize your friend's face, right?
No, you can't. So how does KMM handle that?
Well, that's the key insight here. KMM can't really capture this effectively through documents. It has to facilitate human interaction to transfer it. Things like mentoring programs, communities of practice, maybe job shadowing.
And that difficulty in transfer, that's what keeps KM teams up at night, right? How do you sort of formalize a water cooler chat into a reliable transfer mechanism?
It really is the ultimate KM challenge. If you
Okay.
try and force tacit knowledge into a document,
Hmm.
you usually end up with something that's so abstract it's basically useless.
Right.
So KMM has to recognize that for tacit knowledge, the tool isn't a database. It's maybe a community platform or a structured pairing program, human connection.
Okay, so that's tacit. What's next?
Then we move to implicit knowledge. Now, this one's kind of deceptively simple, but it's incredibly common in organizations. It's the undocumented know-how that exists within your current processes.
Undocumented.
What?
So unlike tacit, it could be written down.
Precisely. Unlike tacit knowledge, it's not inherently difficult to codify. It simply hasn't been written down yet. Maybe nobody thought to or had the time.
Ah, okay. So this is like the process documentation we probably should have done ages ago, but just didn't.
That's often what it is, yeah. Maybe it's a quick workaround you use every single time the main software glitches out. Or, that kind of tribal knowledge about which executive prefers reports in this specific format, not that one.
Oh, I know that one well.
Right. It's the knowledge you kind of assume everyone else knows, but actually, maybe only 5 people in the whole company really do. Capturing this is how you turn that fragile tribal knowledge into solid institutional knowledge.
Got it. Okay, tacit, implicit. What's the third one?
And finally, the most straightforward type, explicit knowledge. This is what most people think of when they hear knowledge management. It's the stuff that's already captured. Documents, manuals, reports, guides, databases, white papers.
The tangible stuff.
Exactly, the tangible stuff. It is easily shared, generally speaking, and it's absolutely crucial for retaining the bulk of an organization's intellectual capital. The main job of KOM here is less about creation and more about making sure this explicit knowledge is accurate, up-to-date, easily searchable.
And it may be retired when it's obsolete.
Yes. Getting rid of the old stuff is just as important. Curation is key.
Okay, so summing that up. Ultimately, regardless of the knowledge type, whether it's that really intuitive tacit stuff or the easily stored explicit documents, KMM programs seem to use a mix of tools and techniques. And they're designed to achieve, what, 3 core things?
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. 3 core approaches. First, bringing employees together, whether that's virtually or in person, just to enable that organic sharing to happen.
Okay.
Second, identifying and actively transferring critical expertise, especially that tricky tacit kind we talked about.
Right, facilitating the human connection.
And third, managing and providing structured, easy access to all that documented information, that explicit knowledge. And that includes, importantly, information about who the experts are, like a directory.
Knowing who knows is sometimes half the battle.
Often it is, yeah.
Okay, so that holistic approach you mentioned, it sounds like it requires some real foresight, which brings up a really important question, maybe one that sinks a lot of KM efforts before they even start. Do you actually need a formal, documented KMM strategy?
Ah, the strategy question.
Mm.
The sources we looked at are incredibly firm on this. The answer is a strong yes. Absolutely you do.
But hang on, couldn't a complex strategy just be overhead? Bureaucracy getting in the way of action. Why not just start small, simple, try things out, iterate?
That's a really fair challenge, and it's a tempting thought. But the strategy really acts as your compass, your navigational guide. What we see consistently is that organizations without a documented strategy and a clear roadmap, they struggle. They struggle to achieve their goals because they end up confusing activity with actual accomplishment.
Meaning they're busy but not necessarily effective.
Exactly. Defining a strategy forces the organization to look outwards, to figure out precisely what KOM can help the business do better. Is it about profit, safety, efficiency? It forces that crucial alignment with the broader business strategy. If you don't know why you're doing KLM, deep down, you're basically just buying some software and hoping for the best.
Which, funnily enough, brings us neatly to what you said is maybe the biggest, most common mistake organizations make.
The tech trap.
The overemphasis on technology.
Yeah.
So many seem to rush straight to buying some software solution, expecting it to magically fix much deeper cultural or behavioral problems.
It happens all the time.
There's a great analogy I came across. Expecting new technology to change how employees behave is like expecting a brand new, really expensive car to automatically make you a better driver.
Right. You still need the driving lessons. You need the skills.
Exactly. In KRM, you need to define the problems you're trying to solve first. What are the specific goals? What human capabilities do you need to build? The technology, the tools they have to support the knowledge strategy. This should never dictate it.
Well said. And if that strategy is sound, then the process can follow logically. When it's implemented correctly, the KOM process usually follows three main steps, kind of synthesized. First is knowledge creation.
Okay.
That's where you identify and then document existing knowledge or maybe new knowledge that you want to circulate. This could be anything from, say, a technical project debrief to a more formalized lessons learned session after something goes wrong. Or right.
Right. Capturing the learning. Then step 2.
Step 2 is knowledge storage. This pretty much always involves using some kind of IT system or repository to actually host that organizational knowledge. And this stage is crucial because it often requires specific formatting or categorization.
Metadata, tags, that sort of thing.
Exactly. All that back-end stuff to meet the system's requirements. It ensures consistency and makes things findable later on. It's not glamorous, but it's essential.
And the final step.
The final and often the most challenging step, honestly, is knowledge sharing. This is where the processes for sharing knowledge and maybe the incentives to encourage people to share are communicated broadly across the organization.
And you mentioned culture earlier.
Critically, yes. The speed and the effectiveness of the sharing depend heavily on the underlying organizational culture. If you have a culture where people tend to hoard information, maybe because they think knowledge is power,
Yeah, protect their turf.
then even the best, most expensive IT system is likely to fail. People just won't use it properly.
Okay, so let's talk tools then. We know technology isn't the whole answer, but it's definitely a necessary partner, right? What specific kinds of technologies are KM teams actually using day to day?
Yeah, it's an essential enabler. They really run the gamut. And the key thing the sources stress is they have to be selected strategically to fit the need. You often see document management systems or DMS.
Okay, what are those best for?
They're primarily for centralized, secure storage of finalized, often static files. Think things like legal contracts, standard operating procedures, finalized project reports, stuff that doesn't change much.
Gotcha. And you often hear content management system, CMS, mentioned too. What's the difference there? They sound pretty similar.
Yeah, that's where a lot of confusion happens. A CMS is typically designed to manage more dynamic content. It often powers websites, intranets, or wikis. It's built for more rapid creation, editing, iteration, and display of content.
So more fluid content.
Exactly. It can handle multimedia like audio and video much more easily, too. So while a DMS might hold the finalized, signed, legal PDF contract, a CMS might power the internal wiki page that explains the context of that contract in plain language, maybe links to related documents, makes it much more digestible for someone who wasn't involved.
Okay, that makes sense. What else?
We also rely heavily on intranets, of course. Those private internal networks providing various groupware services, employee directories, company news.
The company portal, basically.
Right, and wikis are very popular too. They offer fantastic ease of use for collaborative content creation. Anyone can contribute, which is great.
But there's always a but with wikis, isn't there?
There is. The big risk is misinformation or outdated information if they're not actively maintained and curated by the community or a dedicated team. Governance is crucial for wikis.
Okay. Let's shift gears a bit. Let's talk about the people side. Who is actually running these systems, defining the strategy, making all this happen? How are KM teams typically structured?
Good question. The sources we looked at indicate that roughly half of surveyed KM programs operate as a centralized team.
Centralized, meaning one main group.
Yeah, which kind of consolidates the oversight and helps ensure a consistent approach across the whole business.
Yeah.
This team usually includes some formal roles. You'll typically have a KOM leader or manager, some specialized KOM practitioners, maybe someone focused specifically on change management, which is huge in KOM, and often an IT or business analyst bridging the gap with the tech side.
Okay, those are the formal roles. But what about the informal ones? Because it sounds like KOM relies so much on getting knowledge out of people's heads. I imagine partnering with the people who actually know this stuff is absolutely critical.
Oh, it's essential. You can't do KOM without them.
Yeah.
We rely heavily on those informal roles. Things like having strong executive sponsors who champion the cause.
Visible support from the top.
Community leaders, people who run specific communities of practice. And most importantly, subject matter experts, or SMEs.
The SMEs.
These are the individuals who possess that deep process or technical knowledge. They're absolutely crucial for vetting the content, validating accuracy, making sure what the KM team captures is actually correct and useful.
That makes total sense. You know, it's interesting that KM professionals seem to come from really diverse backgrounds. You see people from IT, engineering, communications, even HR, or learning and development, L&D.
L&D is a common one, focusing on training and knowledge acquisition.
But despite the varied backgrounds, the core skill sets needed today seem pretty consistent. Things like project management, definitely. Consulting skills or having a real customer-centric mindset.
Understanding internal needs.
Strong communication abilities,
Yeah.
obviously. And increasingly digital and data fluency. Being comfortable with the tech and the data side.
And what's really fascinating, I think, is looking at the list of top skills that KLM teams are actively trying to develop right now.
Oh, what's on that list?
The top ones include change management, no surprise there, but also design thinking or human-centric design.
Interesting. Applying design principles to knowledge processes.
Exactly. And critical thinking and problem solving. This shift really indicates that KM is moving far beyond just, documentation and storage. It's really stepping into the realm of organizational transformation, process improvement.
They're becoming like internal consultants almost, focused on how knowledge flows and gets used.
That's a perfect way to describe it. Internal consultants for knowledge flow.
Okay, so to be successful as internal consultants, you absolutely need trusted partnerships across the organization.
Yeah.
Who are the really critical allies that KM teams need to cultivate?
Yeah, KM can't succeed in a vacuum. It requires collaboration across the whole ecosystem. Some critical partnerships definitely include IT or the digital departments. You need them for the tech platforms. HR is often key, especially for onboarding and skills mapping.
L&D you mentioned.
Learning and development, absolutely. Big overlap there. And often process improvement teams like Lean or Six Sigma groups. We often talk about the 3 ingredients needed to build real trust with these crucial stakeholders.
Okay, what are the ingredients for trust?
First is positioning. You have to clearly demonstrate that KM is aligned with core business objectives. It can't be seen as just some nice-to-have side project.
It needs to solve real business problems.
Exactly. Second is relationships. You need to actively get out there and build ties with these stakeholders, understand their changing needs, listen to their pain points. It requires that consulting mindset we talked about.
Makes sense. And the third?
And the third, and maybe the hardest one, is time. Trust isn't built overnight. You won't be considered a truly trusted partner until you consistently show you can be relied upon to deliver actual results. And that just takes time and demonstrated success project after project.
That leads us really nicely into the crucial discussion around culture. This seems to come up constantly with KLM. If I'm starting a KLM program, do I need to wait until I have the perfect sharing culture in place before I even begin?
The classic chicken and egg dilemma. Is it culture first or KM first? We really encourage you, the listener, to think about this differently. The evidence suggests that culture change is far more often an outcome of effective knowledge sharing rather than a prerequisite for it.
So you don't wait for the perfect culture.
No. You implement KMM programs and processes that actively encourage and reward sharing, make it easy, make it valuable. And those actions, those rewards, they help build the sharing culture you ultimately need over time.
Interesting. So KMM is less about building this perfect, pristine library up front, and maybe more about encouraging the habit of both reading from it and contributing to it.
That's a great analogy. It's about building the behaviors.
So what are some practical tips then for influencing that behavior? How do you get people to actually participate?
Well, you definitely have to start by understanding the current culture, as you said, warts and all. What are the existing barriers? What motivates people now? Then you absolutely critically must get executives to lead by example.
Walk the talk.
Yes. If a CEO or a senior leader actively shares critical insights using the new KM tool or platform, everybody else pays attention. That signals importance like nothing else.
What else?
You also need thoughtful branding and messaging around KM. Make it clear what's in it for the employees. Consistent recognition for people who contribute good knowledge is vital. And yeah, sometimes just making KM fun can help.
Fun. How do you make knowledge management fun?
Well, maybe using a bit of humor in communications or setting up friendly competitions between teams for sharing best practices, using leaderboards, that kind of thing. Small things can lower the barrier to entry and encourage engagement.
Okay. So let's try and tie all this strategic work, the process, the culture change, back to concrete business outcomes.
Yeah.
What does all this effort actually do for the organization? What are some real-world use cases where KM proves its worth?
Right, let's talk impact. We can start with that crucial process we mentioned earlier, onboarding.
Yeah, getting new hires up to speed.
Instead of overwhelming them with that, 2-day information dump where they forget 90% of it.
The drinking from the fire hose problem.
Exactly. KM allows you to create guided, curated knowledge journeys for new hires. They can access accurate answers and resources right when they need them for specific tasks, and that accelerates their productivity curve dramatically.
Okay, that's a clear win. What about for existing employees? Day-to-day tasks.
The value there is felt almost immediately. Good KM enables quick, easy access to accurate answers at the point of need. So for an engineer, maybe that means spending 5 seconds searching a well-organized repository instead of 5 minutes trying to track down a colleague who might know the answer.
Right, less searching, more doing.
Precisely. It allows them to spend much more time on the activities that actually drive business outcomes rather than just hunting for information.
And I imagine this is huge in customer service as well.
Oh, absolutely massive.
Yeah.
Effective KRM is the backbone of robust self-serve options for customers. Think comprehensive online help centers, FAQs, chatbots fed with good data. Internally, it empowers service agents with quick access to solutions. This directly decreases support costs because customers and agents can find answers themselves faster. And it usually increases customer satisfaction because people generally prefer the speed and control of finding answers instantly if they can.
Okay, those are specific use cases. Looking more broadly, at the macro level, what are the key benefits KM provides to the organization as a whole?
Well, beyond those immediate applications, KOM is really critical for identifying skill gaps across different teams or departments. By seeing what knowledge is documented and what isn't, or who the key experts are, you get a clearer picture of capabilities.
Okay, strategic workforce planning almost.
It feeds into that, yes.
Yeah.
It also helps organizations make better informed, more data-driven decisions because they can draw on documented enterprise history and past learnings. And crucially, it helps maintain that essential enterprise knowledge, the organizational memory, even when long-term experts retire or leave the company.
Preserving institutional knowledge.
Exactly. And one more thing, it's foundational for improving data security. Good KM systems allow for customized permission controls, ensuring sensitive information is only shared through the correct channels and with the right people.
Right, need to know access.
Yeah.
Okay, so despite all this, every few months it feels like someone writes a headline declaring the death of KOM because maybe the term sounds a bit dated or something. Is knowledge management actually here to stay?
Oh, that's just clickbait, frankly. And it's just inaccurate. Knowledge management as a discipline is highly robust, and it is absolutely here to stay. It's often just practiced under different names now.
Like what?
You hear terms like social learning or virtual collaboration. Sometimes it's just wrapped into digital transformation initiatives. But if you define KOM broadly as simply connecting people to expertise and information efficiently, well, it's represented in practice in nearly every large organization globally, whatever they call it.
So the function is alive and well, even if the label changes sometimes.
Just like-
And looking forward, what's the next big thing that's really transforming this space? What's changing how KM is done?
Without a shadow of a doubt, it's artificial intelligence. AI.
AI? Okay.
How so? Well, emerging technologies powered by AI are fundamentally transforming how people find information and share knowledge. Think intelligent search, automated content tagging, expert identification, even generating first drafts of documentation.
Right. AI needs good data, good knowledge to work effectively.
Exactly. AI models, especially things like large language models, are only as good as the clean, structured, reliable, explicit knowledge you feed them. And who manages that explicit knowledge?
The KM teams.
The KM teams. Therefore, KM teams are increasingly being looked upon to provide the essential infrastructure, the governance frameworks, and critically, the change management support for adopting and implementing AI responsibly and effectively. It actually positions KM leaders right at the center of this huge technological evolution. They are, in a sense, the architects of the organization's information blueprint that AI relies upon.
Wow, okay. So KM is actually becoming more critical in the age of AI, not less.
Absolutely. It's foundational.
Okay, so let's wrap this up. We've clearly established that KM is far, far more than just buying some software or setting up a centralized storage folder. It's really a strategic framework, isn't it, for managing your organization's collective brain power.
Mm-hmm.
And that encompasses everything from that really difficult to capture tacit knowledge, the stuff that resides purely in human experience, all the way to the easily documented, explicit knowledge that we need for daily operations.
Yeah.
It really is the engine that keeps corporate memory alive and accessible.
Well put. And maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to take away. Given that knowledge management is so crucial for ensuring that organizational memory, and now, as we've discussed, it's becoming central to implementing AI successfully, Consider this. If we define KM broadly, like we said, as connecting people to expertise and information, just how much of your own daily work, regardless of your official job title? I mean, whether you're quickly sharing a helpful tip with a colleague on a messaging app, or maybe carefully formatting a lessons learned document after a project, how much of that is already, in reality, a hidden function of knowledge management?
That's a great question.
And maybe more pointedly, what crucial implicit knowledge, that obvious to you but completely undocumented process or shortcut you use every single day, what piece of that knowledge is just waiting to be documented in your current workflow, waiting to help the next person who steps into your role, or maybe even feed into a future AI tool? That's the challenge for you to explore in your own work.